G'day guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Wildkard. Thank you for being here and watching my content. I really do appreciate it. Yes, it's Wednesday, not Tuesday. I was not able to make my scheduled Tuesday news update yesterday because, good news guys, I'm pregnant. I'm pregnant, yay. And yeah, I felt like Jimmy Cowan, who had just been tackled by Baki's Boita and then getting headbutted from behind. And was pretty horrendous yesterday, couldn't get out of bed. But yeah, I'm here, just trying to get through this news update for this week. And yeah, without further ado, let's see what happened last week in rugby. The Rugby World Rankings, obviously only 2 games to play on the weekend. Australia has moved up 2 spots to 6th from 8th after beating Wales. Scotland, Argentina on the receiving end of dropping 2 spots as a result of that, despite they didn't play on the weekend. England didn't really lose anything after losing to South Africa. There were some talks that the Springboks could have overtook New Zealand in the rankings if they had taken the 3 points right at the end, because that would make a big enough points differential to give them a little bit more points following the win. But regardless, unchanged for the top 5 for the Rugby World Rankings. First up, as we mentioned, England was thumped at Twickenham by the mighty Springboks. And yeah, a really lackluster performance once again by the England side. The Springboks had a red card in the second half of the match, with Thomas Dutoy shoulder charging a player into a tackle. And as a result, England had about 30 minutes to play against 14 Springboks players. And yeah, really didn't see much of an improvement despite having 1 player advantage. Unlike last week against New Zealand, England was able to put on 3 tries against a 14-man All Blacks. The Springboks really managed to get a lot better. There were some criticism for the Springboks doing too much kicking, but that is how you kind of win a game with 14 players. Really try to manage the territory and try to manage the zone control of where the game is played. And I thought the Springboks did much better, not giving England any opportunity to apply sustained pressure. Also, the Springboks did win the physicality battle as well, both in the set piece and the area battle as well, something Eddie Jones also talked about after the test match. Some really bizarre moments in this game as well. Owen Farrell missed 2 really easy penalty goals, which was really uncharacteristic for him, especially considering the 2 kicks were pretty much right in front. And yeah, some interesting stuff from the weekend. And obviously, when you lose, you blame the referee. That's how it works. That's how it works. You don't have to be a South African to blame the referee. And apparently both the tries that the Springboks scored were illegal. And to be fair, there was probably some truth to that. So if we have a quick look at this, so this Eben Esbeth try, so the ball comes off, look like Faf may have knocked on here. Eben Esbeth pick up the ball, drops down. So obviously the knock on aside, you can argue that probably it was knocked back, but Eben Esbeth definitely picks up the ball when his knees were on the ground, so he technically played the ball on the ground. Yeah, that should have been a no try. I feel like that he is he's out of play. So yeah, we'll be waiting for a video from Eddie Jones, obviously, to look into that. And obviously, the other try, the most spectacular try of probably of the evening, maybe this year in the all of Autumn Internationals. Kearney done a huge number on Marcus Smith. So let's just quickly look at. So there's a couple interesting thing here as well. So obviously, this people saying that Freddie Stewart was blocked by Ardenza here. And there's people saying that this pass was forward, which I don't think it's forward. And he runs through for the try. And now the first angle for the block is pretty difficult to see. But this is a really good angle to see this is a illegal block. Because he is allowed to stay on course. He stay in the same line. So Cody Alenza is running this direction, as you can see here. And he changes his steps to the side to block Freddie. So that he has changed his line. So that is actually a block. So yeah, this try probably shouldn't be allowed either. But yeah, we'll have to get Eddie Jones to make a video to get this sort through. This pass from Valemsa to Villaru might be a little bit forward, but it did come out of his hands backwards, which is I think it's fine. It's a flat pass. This one as well. It's also a flat pass. Also came out of the hand backwards. So I think the passes are fine, but the block definitely look a little bit illegal. So yeah, can't wait for Eddie Jones' video. And yeah, so yeah, obviously England was booed off the field after losing to the Springboks. Mario Itoje showed his what do you call it? Showed off his sheepish grin. So yeah, not a good day to be an England fan. Obviously, a lot of people were unhappy with Eddie Jones, calling for him to get fired. Eddie Jones, in the post-match interview, did talk a couple of things about the did talk about a couple of things with his thoughts, with regards to his thoughts to the game. He did think that obviously the physicality up front in the scrummaging, they lost the scrummaging. Obviously, the other key issue is the high ball. He really, like, a lot of the England strategy is revolved around the high ball. He did feel like the Springboks were able to manage that much better than the other, much better than England did this week. So they lost the high ball contest and lost the up front battle with the scrummaging. Eddie Jones also talked about how there were a few players returning, and then they're trying to get them back into form. And as a result, it will take some time for the England team to fully click into gear. Now, for my part, I do feel like it's true that a lot of the returning players, like, Malu Tuilangi, is not really in form at the moment. He hasn't really played well for any of the games that he was present in the England side. And ironically, the one game where England blew away Japan, there was a Guy Porter was playing outside centre in place for Malu Tuilangi. And I thought Guy Porter put a much better performance, showed a lot more flair, a lot more urgency than Malu Tuilangi. So yeah, I do feel like Eddie Jones do play a bit of favoritism in some of his selection issues. And as a result, some of these players get complacent and they know they probably not going to get dropped because Eddie Jones is banking the whole World Cup campaign on them, essentially. So yeah, I was surprised that Guy Porter didn't get another run here for England at centre. And despite the horrendous performances by Malu Tuilangi in recent test matches. But yeah, Eddie Jones is keen to give him plenty of time to, get his form back. Yeah. Next up, so yeah, the RFU, the English, essentially, Football Union, basically came out and made a statement that they're going to review the whole season, the Autumn International Series, and this is the worst form England has been since 2008. Yeah, and they're gonna have a serious meetings of where to go forward, but they did not make explicit mention of head coach Eddie Jones. So there's no specifics being mentioned about Eddie's future, but they will have a meeting about it. And yeah, obviously the Northerners, the English media are crying. And the best part of the crying is obviously old mate Sir Clive Woodward, obviously the biggest Eddie Jones fan. It's actually really fun to read the amount of crying that this guy has been doing. And I just going to read some of this stuff. It's actually quite funny. So he said that the game in this country is a total shambles and defeat to a South African side without 9 of its best players showed it. When are the leading figures at the RFU going to wake up and realize English rugby is in trouble? Everything is not okay. Eddie Jones will be allowed to carry on as he likes yet again. I was lost for words watching the South Africa game. It was that bad. It was one of the most depressing games I've seen at HQ. Meaning Twickenham, I think. The England team is miles off where it needs to be. I've never seen people booing at the final whistle at Twickenham before. I know this guy's old, but pretty sure they booed last week, mate. Did you forget? Everybody booed Marcus Smith for kicking the boiler last week against the All Blacks. So yeah, maybe you have to check maybe you're having like signs of dementia. Sir Clive Woodward should get your head checked. He clearly saw it last week, but he never seen it apparently. Twickenham before. It really, really hurts. hurts me to see and hear that. I hate it, but at the same time, it also reflects where England are at right now. And then you have like Mike Brown coming out and say like, I have stopped believing what comes out of Eddie Jones's mouth. I hear the same thing over and over again. It's just plenty of crying, plenty of tears coming out of the English media. But yeah, probably need to get your head checked, mate. Early signs of dementia. Sir Woodward. So there was a bit of an unfortunate incident, obviously. Barnsley was supposed to get his, 100 test, international test. He was supposed to get a, a halftime, he was supposed to get acknowledged at halftime during the match, and because of the presence of the Springboks supporters, and they felt like he was probably gonna get booed when they put him out there, so it was cancelled. I thought this was a bit unfortunate. 100th test is still a really great achievement. Barnsley really deserved to have that bestowed upon him, and to not give him the opportunity because of the Springbok fans. A little bit unfortunate. Obviously, Rassie was banned for 2 weeks. He had a dialogue with World Rugby over the week. Alan Gilpin, Phil Davis, so they're all met up with Rassie and had to talk about what they want from the referees. Some frustrations from both sides of how they see the referees' role in the modern day rugby. So he did have a meeting with those two guys, and we shall see if things are gonna change for the Springbok rugby for World Rugby going forward. Wales versus the Wallabies. This is one of those games where if you're a Welsh fan, you'd be really gutted. This was probably another horrendous performance by the Welsh team. They were leading quite comfortably at halftime, and they just threw the game. I call it a throw because they gave away 3 yellow cards in the second half to really allow the Wallabies just walk them over, and those were just stupid yellow cards like tripping a player, deliberate knock on, and just like collapsing the more cynically collapsing the more, and it was really stupid. And this, don't know what else to say. I do have to give credit to the Wallabies. Really put up a fight in the second half. The bench came up onto the field knowing this job needs to be done, and really put the team on their backs, and went to work and put the Welsh on notice, and cracked the Welsh, and came out with a quite nice win. Well, with that being said, when Pivac obviously had an abysmal year, I think he won three games, test matches this year. One of the worst ever in the history of Wales. There is some talks about this. Obviously, again, just like Eddie Jones, people wanted him to get fired. He obviously is, obviously he's gonna hold his own. He's saying that he will be, continuing doing his best, taking the team into the Rugby World Cup next year. He will be traveling to France to check out the stadiums that Wales is going to be playing. But he is under a lot of pressure. When he was asked in the post-match interviews what he thinks about his role as a head coach, he basically said, it's not his, it's for someone else to comment on, not really his saying. So Pivac, with that being said, the WRO Wales Rugby Union also is going to have another came out with a statement. They're also going to have another review of the Wales rugby team this year, and they not really specific about what they were they didn't really hint upon anything, but they did say that they were looking at getting a meeting already after losing to Georgia, but then after this loss to Australia, really just put this meeting into a bigger perspective about how they want to go forward with their team. And with that being said, there's speculations that Warren Gatland, former Wales head coach, will be returning to replace Pivac, going into the Six Nations and going to Rugby World Cup. So yeah, old mate Gatland will be there's a big talks about him potentially coming back alongside of Steve Tandy, as the two duos will be taking over Wales once again. Yeah, so Pivac's job is probably on the chopping block real quick. So for me, I thought the the poor performances by the Welsh team, not too much about the coaching set. I thought it was more of a coaching issue with Eddie Jones not bringing up newer players and putting players that's clearly out of form onto the field. That's probably more of a coaching issue from England. But for Wales, I do feel like the players were just poor. Like, it's not, it's like an attitude issue, and I'm not sure if that's the way that, I'm not sure if that's just the way the Wales Rugby Union is operating behind the scenes, but it looked like an attitude issue. Players just really gets overconfident after they taken a lead and just starts do stupid things and literally throwing the game a bit. We saw this against Italy. They were like literally every time Italy catches up, they were the team just like put on the hammer and scores a try, and then just immediately taking the gas off for the foot of the pedal, and then allowing Italy back in the game, and then they try to put down the hammer again, get themselves ahead, but eventually Italy was able to stay close and close out the game, get themselves in front, and that's pretty much what happened against Georgia as well. Wales was comfortably in front, 24 minutes in, 2 tries already, and just cruised for more than half the game. Really disappointing. And that's the same thing here against the Wallabies. Really comfortable at halftime and quite big margin. Like, I think it was like over 20 points or something, close to 20 points. And just decided to cruise, decided to do stupid things, decided to like mentally take a break. And I don't think that's like a culture issue. I don't think that's like a coaching issue, to be honest. So yeah, strategically, I thought the Welsh were brilliant against the Wallabies, and I thought it was the attitude of the players that really let themselves down, to be honest. But yeah, we'll see. So the Wallabies, obviously, Nick White's incident was looked into by World Rugby, and they're basically saying there was some communication issues that led to him allowed back onto the field. But his beard is fine. Bottom line is, so with the Wallaby head coach, look at him. He's pretty tired. Rennie is looking a bit washed out. But yeah, he is. He's had a tough year. There's a lot of injuries in the Wallabies side. Overall, I do feel like the Wallabies were pretty close. To be fair, in a lot of those test matches against France and Ireland, the Italy game was a massive blemish in the Wallaby side, and it was just players being poor and selections. I think probably selection issue there. And probably, underestimating the Italian side. And overall, I thought, given the situation, given the injury, I thought the Wallabies did okay. Did okay in the November Test series. And I thought that was despite the, all-time low record, a number of wins for the Wallabies, I thought that was just the November Test series alone. I thought the Wallabies was okay. The Rugby Championship was a different story. I thought that was some pretty poor performances from there that should not have happened. But we'll have to see how the Wallabies go forward into 2023. Rob Kearney, former Irish international, spent a year here. In Western Force. Came out and really, shared a lot of insight to the current state of Australian rugby at the moment. He basically came out and said he was surprised that there was a lack of quality in the coaching. Something that he thought Australians used to be really good at, considering Eddie Jones and Michael Cheika, world-class coaches. But Western Force does have a lot of is a outlier in kind of getting quality players and quality coaches, because they were kicked out of Super Rugby for a while. They weren't not able to attract big name coaches as a result of that. And yeah, obviously Rob Kearney, someone who's played with the best coaches and best teams in the world, really felt like he was playing with potentially amateur coaches. He was unimpressed, and he felt like the way Australian rugby is running at the moment is not really good. He plays Super Rugby games in front of 4,000 players, really abysmal, to be honest. And he felt like that the quality of the talents are not coming through to rugby because the sport is competing against other codes that are just more popular in Australia, which is entirely true. I think Rob Kearney is 100% correct here and really shed a bit of light on the insides of Australian rugby. So World Rugby also came out and wanted to, again, made an announcement to speed up the game. And they came up with a short list of ideas. They talked about speeding up the game last year, right? And then they introduced the official water break. I was just like mind blown how they thought that was going to speed up the game by literally giving players water breaks. And so they're gonna come out and really try to do better. I guess one of the key things that they were talking about is having a shot clock when it comes to set piece and water breaks as well. So just having like a timer to allow for like scrums to set piece to be done is really good. Just prevents players from prevents time wasting essentially. To be fair, I'm not too worried about time wasting. I just wish they can pause the clock. Like if the scrum collapses, just pause the clock. I don't mind watching scrum resets 5 times. It doesn't bother me. I do think that they should just pause the clock so teams can't abuse that to run the clock down. So they should just do that instead of having a shot clock. But yeah, anyway, that's just my 2 cents. A Scottish rugby player, what's his name? Douglas Steele, fly half at Mart RFC, is tested positive for banned substance, anti-doping. Had him banned for 3 years, whatever. And finally, the Cell C Sharks in South Africa has the head coach steps down after losing to Cardiff. And that's the news this week. Let me know your thoughts about any of the things we'll talk about. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you guys next week for the news. And cheers. Stay tuned for other content I might bring out. Cheers.